Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today at the Spanish Written Exam webinar. Before we begin, if you've not been to a webinar with us before, you do have a couple of options to interact with us today. You may raise your hand, but it's better for us if you do ask your questions directly in that questions box as seen on the screen now. Hola, bienvenidos a Español. My name is Zach. I'm one of two Spanish teachers here at Penn Foster. With us here today is my colleague Dan, who is available to answer any of those questions. So feel free at any time throughout today's session to send those in. In addition, you do have a couple of ways to contact us. First is by phone, 1-888-427-1000. We are in the office from 9 to 6 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can send us an email or chat with us from your student portal help and support page. If you have a quick question about the course, feel free to text the word LEARN to 39033. We can get back to you that way. Or finally, if you need a little bit more detailed help and you'd like to schedule an appointment with one of us, feel free to do so. In addition to the ways of reaching out to us, there also are a multitude of resources hosted on our two academic resource websites, as you see under our pictures here. So feel free to write those down and check those out. And we'll definitely leave those up at the end if you don't get a chance now. So our objectives for today, we are going to describe each of the Spanish written exams, locate where to find project instructions and audio selections within your portal, also about how to upload assignments, identifying reasons for a returned assignment if this should come up, everything you need to know about our plagiarism policies with the course and with Penn Foster as a whole. And finally, we'll give you some tips for success in Spanish. And definitely ending with any final questions you may have. So without further ado, we'll get started here with the Spanish written exams. First, there are 5 written exams in your course, exams 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. They're also known by the study unit names as you see here. So you may see them referred to as either one. And they do correlate to these exam numbers on the right-hand side. Definitely don't need to know any of this, memorized it or anything, but good to know to be able to match them up here. So the first written exam, exam number 4, is 3 parts. Part 1 is the error detection. So you will be correcting errors in Spanish so that they translate to the English translation supplied. So you'll be rewriting the sentence correctly in Spanish. We show you an example here. Él están jugando al béisbol. We see that we have a singular subject él, which means he. However, the verb in the original sentence is in the plural. So that would really translate as they are. So all we need to do is change that verb to agree with the subject of the sentence. He is playing baseball. So están becomes está. And the next part is math completion. You'll be given a set of math problems, and you'll need to solve those and write your answer in Spanish Word format. So an example, dos times cinco, we know that means 2 times 5, and we know that answer is 10. So all you're going to do is write 10 in Spanish, which is 10. Finally, in part 3, this is reading comprehension. You will be reading a story in Spanish and answering 5 questions in English based on what you've read. In the next exam, number 6, this is going to be a 4-part exam. Part 1 is matching, and it's matching images with commands. The next 2 sections deal with verb conjugation. So in part 2, you'll be conjugating irregular verbs in present tense. And if you're not sure what verb conjugation means, definitely will be explained in that unit. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out. So if you are provided with salir, which is the verb to leave, and we give you the pronoun, so eos or eas, this is the third person plural, you're coming up with how to say they leave in Spanish, and that answer would be salen. And part 3 is pretty similar, although there's only 2 different verbs you will be writing down. And these are the verbs which mean to know in Spanish, saber or conocer. Additionally, in this section, with the present tense, you may need to conjugate in the imperfect tense, which is one of the past tenses in Spanish. So you do want to pay attention to the original sentence that is given to you, and whether it says know or knew, you'd be conjugating in present or imperfect. So we give you some examples here. Now, first thing to know about saber and conocer is they are used differently depending on context. So if you use saber, this is if you know something for certain or as a fact, or knowing how to do something. You're going to use forms of conocer when you know or are familiar with a person, place, or thing. So in our examples, we have Ana knows many things. This is present tense, sabe. Ana knew many things in the imperfect sabía, versus Ana knows Juan in the present tense, conoce, and Ana knew Juan, conocía in the imperfect. And then the final part of the exam is reading comprehension again, although this time you'll be answering true or false based on the story that you're reading. Additionally, if any answer is false, you do want to make sure you change the false answer to make it true or explain why it's false. In the next exam, number 8, this is also 4 parts. Parts 1 and 2, you'll have translation exercises from English to Spanish. So we give you an example. He runs to the grandma's house, and your answer, él corre a la casa de la abuelita. Once you reach part 3, you'll be doing just the opposite. You'll be translating from Spanish to English. So pon tu lápiz aquí, you would write place or put your pencil here. Now in part 4, you're going to have one of 2 options. If you've enrolled a little bit earlier into our high school program, you will be presented with an audio section here. What you're going to be doing is listening to a story and filling in the missing words that you hear in Spanish. The story can be found on tape 4L, side A, from around 2.5 minutes up to 3.5 minutes. And it will start with the words en la. If you've enrolled more recently into our high school program, you won't have an audio section. You'll just have more translation exercises, sentence formation exercises, etc. So we do ask that you just follow the specific directions on your exam. The next written exam, number 10, is 3 parts. In part 1, translation sentences from English to Spanish. So we give you another example there. You can take a look at that. Part 2 is translation, Spanish to English. This time, though, it's only going to be single words in a passage. So as you can see, mucho means either a lot or much. And then finally, in part 3, listening comprehension, you're going to be hearing 2 short Spanish poems and also writing those down in Spanish as you hear them. Titles of the poems are No sé qué te diera, I don't know what I would give you, and Veo la luna, I see the moon. These two poems are found also on tape 4L side A from 9 to 10 minutes. And then to wrap up the written exams, the last one here, exam 12, is 2 parts. Once again, English to Spanish translation sentences. And then in part 2, it's another listening comprehension exercise. This time, though, you'll be listening to a longer story in Spanish, and you're going to try your best to write an English summary of 10 to 20 sentences in your own words. First thing to note, there is a choice of which story you would like to listen to. First option, Papá siempre tiene la razón, Father is always right, can be found tape 4L side B, 3.5 minutes to the 15-minute mark. Or the alternate story, Circo, an old Ukrainian tale, tape 4L side A, 13 to 21 minutes. Please note you do just need to do one story, not both. It does need to be written as a summary, so you don't want to necessarily write down every single word that you're hearing, like a translation, but try to gather as much detail as you can and come up with 10 to 20 sentences in your own words. Very important that it's in your own words. So we're going to take a brief pause. If you do have any questions about those 5 written exams, please feel free to send those in to Dan at this time. In the next section of the webinar, we are going to talk about where to find project instructions and audio selections within your portal. And things look different depending on when you enrolled. So we're going to show you some screenshots here. In this first example, this is for students that may have enrolled a little bit earlier into our high school program. The first thing you see is we're working on Exam 8 Spanish, and we have a study unit. And the study unit is where all of the learning material will be for that lesson. You then have the different audio buttons. So every study unit will come with its own audio tape. So that's the one directly beneath the study unit. And then for any exams that have an audio portion, you're always going to be using the tape 4L listening comprehension, either side A or B. So those will be what those buttons are for. Please check out the supplement titled Clarification on Spanish Exams Audio Sections, and that will give you a breakdown of where to find those audio clips if you didn't have a chance to write those down in today's session. Directions for the written exams in this first example are found directly in the study material. You'll come across a page that looks very similar to this. It'll give you information about our academic integrity, plagiarism policies, followed by the examination number. So that's the point of where you reach the exam. Now, for students that have enrolled more recently into our program, you have the same assignments in a sense, but they're just laid out a little bit differently. So here we're working in section 8.1, B lesson 8. And the first thing you see is the study unit once again, followed by the audio tape for that study unit, tape 4. The next item you have is the flashcards. You can use those to help you out with your vocab. And then the last 3 assignments will give you all the information you need to know about the exam. So project instructions is where you'll find the actual questions and directions to submit your assignment. And at the bottom, you see the listening comprehension tapes, side A or B. To demonstrate this further, when you click on project instructions, this is the page that will come up. Again, it will give you information about how to submit your work to us for grading. Also at the top, it'll give you a reminder of where to find the audio for that exam. And at the very bottom, you'll see a link to view the project instructions. Now, recently launched, Dan and I have decided that we want to try to make things easier for you. Instead of using the audio button, some exams have a link underneath the sections with the audio. So all you need to do is click on that link and it will bring you to the exact section you need. You don't have to worry about going to 9 minutes, for example. Just click on the link and it'll bring you right there. So you may see links located in these directions. In the next part of the webinar, we are going to talk about how to upload written assignments or other submission options if you cannot submit on your portal. So similar to other written exams here at Penn Foster, whether it be in your English course, your Spanish course, or anything else, you may type your responses on a word processor. Most students use Microsoft Word, Google Docs, WordPad. There are a couple of others. Next step is very important. You do want to make sure the file is saved in one of the file formats or extensions. RTF is primarily used with WordPad, that's rich text format. Or you can save it as one of the standard document formats, so DOC or DOCX. After you have your file saved, just follow those instructions found within your exam directions to submit your assignment. As I mentioned, if you don't have a way to submit your assignment online, no need to worry. You can fax or mail your exam to us for grading. Our fax number, 570-961-4038. You want to make sure your name, your student ID number, as well as attention Spanish is on that fax, so it comes to us. Or if you decide to mail it, you see our mailing address listed again on your screen. Now, once you have submitted your assignment, if you do want to check on the status, whether it was received, returned, or graded, all you need to do is consult the grades page on your student portal, scroll down to your Spanish course, and you'll see one of the three options. So the first one being a score. In this case, exam 3 had an 85. The next option you may see is returned. This means your assignment has been returned to you for revision and it has not been graded. You do need to make revisions in order for it to be graded. And then the final option is you'll see received. And this means your assignment was submitted successfully or received successfully by us and is awaiting a grade. So typically grading time is about 5 to 7 business days for evaluation. I will say many times we are able to get them done sooner, but do plan on the 5 to 7 just in case. If you happen to have your exam returned, here are a couple of the top reasons we see in Spanish. First, if you don't follow directions, so if it asks you to write something in Spanish and you write it in English, it will be returned. If you fail to complete all the parts of the exam, it will be returned. If you do not complete the correct audio section, or if you submit the wrong exam entirely. These are going to be all reasons for a return. However, that is not a list of all the possible reasons. So very important that you check the instructor feedback file for the specific reason your exam was returned to you. And we're going to go over next about where to find the instructor feedback file. So to find the instructor feedback file from your grades page, you do want to navigate to one of your written exams, and you'll see an option listed on the right to view the feedback. You can click that. And once you do, you'll be presented with the box. It'll give you the lesson number that you are working on. The first thing you'll see is your submitted project for grading. And the next option would be the instructor feedback file. So all you need to do is click download file. And that will give you information regarding your grade, if it was returned, if the assignment was deemed plagiarized. It'll give you all the information you need to know. All your exams are graded by real individuals, not computers. So we do put time into giving you feedback that will help you succeed. So please be sure to check that out. Next, we're going to talk about plagiarism, specifically within the Spanish course, but also some of our policies at Penn Foster overall. So plagiarism, first of all, is very important to remember with all of your courses. Be it that we are an accredited online high school, we do need to make sure our integrity standards are always being met. So if you use a language translator or any answers you submit found online, this is unacceptable. It will be identified and you will be required to do additional work. So please stay off sites like Google Translate, Brainly.com, JustAnswer.com. There are many others out there. Best to stay off those websites when completing your course. So if your exam happens to be plagiarized, a couple steps here. On the first submission, your exam would be graded with the 1% grade, and it will require a retake in your own words. If plagiarism happens again on the same exam, you'll be given another 1%, and now you'll be required to complete an alternate exam. And finally, if this paper exam, if this alternate exam is plagiarized, further disciplinary action will be taken up to and including termination. Fortunately, we have seen students terminated from Penn Foster due to Spanish plagiarism. So very important that if plagiarism happens, that you get in contact with Dan or myself and understand why. And that way you'll avoid that going forward. We definitely want you to succeed. So please don't feel afraid to ask any questions you may have about this. So some general tips on avoiding plagiarism in the course. The first one's pretty obvious, but just use your own words on the written exams. It's always better to get something incorrect or may not include every detail than to search for the information online. Going along with that, please don't consult any online sources. Everything you need to know regarding the material can be found back in your study material. So please be sure to check that out. Consult with Dan or myself, but please do stay off the internet for help. And finally, how can you succeed in Penn Foster Spanish? First one, please take your time. Learning a new language or language acquisition is difficult. It is one of Penn Foster's longest high school electives, so it will take you time and preparation. As I mentioned with the plagiarism, please do not search the internet for help with your exams. Again, it does result in more work, and repeated plagiarism can result in disciplinary action. And finally, please ask any questions throughout your course. If you don't understand something in lesson 1, please make sure you understand it before moving on to lesson 2, because with a language, it will build on each other, the topics that you learned. So if you're ever stuck, please let us know up front, and we'll be sure to help you out. So as we finish up for today, we will take your preguntas, your questions. You may ask those now in the webinar question area. Again, here are contact options: phone, email, chat, text, and appointment scheduling. Be sure to check out all the plentiful help on the academic resource website. And if you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to ask those at this time. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.